I want you to imagine sitting in a car for 8 straight hours.
Oh man, that sounds rough, even on a good day.
Right. But you are trapped in a historic Scottish blizzard. The wind is just screaming against the glass.
Just completely stranded.
Exactly. And you are sitting inches away from the person you promised to spend the rest of your life with. But here's the catch.
Okay.
When you look at them, you literally cannot recognize their face.
Wow. I mean, it sounds like the premise for like a psychological horror film.
It really does.
But it's actually this profoundly intimate kind of terror, being physically that close to someone, sharing an entire life with them, yet remaining completely unseen in the most literal sense.
And that unsettling scenario is exactly where we are starting today. We are doing a deep dive into excerpts from Alice Feeney's psychological thriller, Rock, Paper, Scissors.
Which is just a fantastic read.
It really is. But our mission here isn't just to recap a plot for you.
Yeah.
We're going to use this story to dissect the anatomy of a failing marriage.
Yeah, getting right into the messy stuff.
Right. We want to look at how secrets, literal and metaphorical blindness, and total isolation sort of compound to fracture a relationship from the inside out.
It is a brilliant study in tension, honestly. We are looking at how the architecture of a relationship can rot, often while the people inside the house are desperately pretending the foundations are totally solid.
Welcome to the deep dive. We've designed this specifically for you to bypass the fluff and get right to the psychological core of this narrative. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Let's start with the inciting incident. We have this married couple, Adam and Amelia Wright, and they are driving a 1978 Morris Minor.
Which, by the way, is essentially a tiny, freezing tin can of a vehicle.
Literally a tin can. And they're driving it into a massive snowstorm in the Scottish Highlands.
Just a terrible idea all around.
A completely terrible idea. And they are doing this to supposedly save their marriage. It's a weekend getaway suggested by their marriage counselor, a counselor that Adam bitterly refers to as "Call Me Pamela."
I love that detail. That bit about the counselor perfectly sets up his resistance to this whole endeavor.
Yeah, he clearly doesn't want to be there.
No, not at all. Adam isn't just a reluctant husband dragging his feet to couples therapy. He is a man navigating the world with a severe neurological condition called prosopagnosia.
Prosopagnosia.
Right. More commonly known as face blindness.
So wait, to be clear on the mechanism here, because I think people misunderstand this, it's not just a bad memory. Right?
No, not at all.
If I have prosopagnosia, my eyes physically see the shape of a nose and the color of eyes, but my brain just, fails to stitch those individual features into a recognizable whole.
That is the perfect way to describe it. Yeah, it's a cognitive disorder of face perception. The hardware of the eyes works perfectly fine, but the software in the brain that processes identity, it just fails.
That's wild.
It is. Adam cannot recognize his friends, he cannot recognize his wife, and jarringly, he can't even recognize his own face when he looks in a mirror.
Oh, wow. You can't even imagine that.
So to navigate the world, he relies entirely on secondary cues. He identifies Amelia by her specific perfume, or the cadence of her voice, or just the feel of her hand.
We really have to consider the psychological toll of living like that. I mean, the text shows us how this condition causes him intense social anxiety.
Oh, absolutely.
He can be at a crowded industry party and feel entirely just suffocatingly alone because he is surrounded by strangers, even if he's known them for years.
Yeah, it's incredibly isolating.
It is so severe that it actually stopped him from wanting children.
Right, that part was heartbreaking.
He couldn't bear the thought of picking up a child and not being able to recognize his own kid's face. So, by necessity, his entire world is incredibly insular. It's just him and Amelia against the world.
Yeah, they are in their own little bubble.
You know, I was thinking about this dynamic, and I want to push back on something with you.
Okay, go for it.
Obviously, Adam has a literal, documented neurological condition, but it made me wonder about the rest of us.
Interesting. How so?
Is it possible that we all develop a sort of, emotional face blindness in long-term relationships? Do we all eventually stop seeing our partners clearly over time, replacing the actual evolving human being in front of us with who we assume they are based on 10 years of habit?
Oh, that is a brilliant way to frame it.
Yeah,
Yeah, we replace a living, breathing person with a static mental avatar.
exactly. We just stop looking.
Adam is literally blind to her face, but Amelia feels invisible to him in a much broader emotional sense. She notes in the text that he never asks about her day anymore, that she feels unlikable, unloved, and entirely overlooked.
She's just a ghost in her own marriage.
She feels like she is fading away in his mind. But what's fascinating here is that the text introduces a major contradiction regarding Adam's supposed blindness.
Oh, you mean the cell phone incident in the car?
Yes. Because while Adam cannot read a microexpression on a human face, he is incredibly highly attuned to deception.
Right, he says his gut tells him things.
He claims his gut tells him exactly when Amelia is lying. And right before this trip, he secretly watched Amelia take his beloved mobile phone out of the glove box and hide it inside their house.
He literally watched her do it.
He saw the whole thing.
He watched her hide his phone, and then he sat in that freezing car for 8 hours listening to her play dumb.
Pretending she had no idea where it was.
She even blamed him for forgetting it.
Yeah.
He knows for a fact that she is actively, purposefully isolating him in the middle of nowhere without a lifeline.
And that realization shifts the entire dynamic of the story. It's no longer just passive marital drift. It is active manipulation.
Yes, exactly.
He's hiding what he knows while she is hiding what she did. They are basically locked in a silent standoff.
Which brings us to the actual architecture of their secrets, because Amelia spent years perfectly curating a hidden life. And the source text reveals this through a very clever structural device, Amelia's secret anniversary letters.
Right. These letters are amazing. They serve as a private ledger of the marriage's hidden history.
But she doesn't actually give them to him, right?
No, never. She writes one to Adam every single year on their anniversary, but she never lets him read them. And they are themed around traditional anniversary gifts. Paper for year 1, cotton for year 2, leather for year 3, and so on.
And the biggest secret recorded in that ledger involves Adam's career. Adam is a screenwriter.
And a pretty successful one at that.
Yeah, but he started at the absolute bottom, just selling popcorn at a local cinema. He got his massive, life-changing break adapting a novel called The Doppelganger by a notoriously reclusive, famous author named Henry Winter.
And Adam genuinely views this break as a stroke of incredible luck. In fact, he carries around a paper origami crane in his wallet, which was the paper anniversary gift Amelia made him for their first year of marriage, because he believes it's his lucky charm.
He really thinks that little bird changed his life.
He thinks that little paper crane brought him all the success he enjoys today.
But the paper letter reveals the absolute bombshell. It wasn't luck at all.
Not even a little bit.
Amelia secretly orchestrated that life-changing meeting. She literally gave Henry Winter the paper crane to forge that connection.
Behind Adam's back.
Entirely. And it gets even wilder. During their leather anniversary at a fancy film industry party, Amelia spots the famously reclusive Henry Winter tracking Adam through the crowd.
Like he's trying to find him.
Yes, Henry is trying desperately to get Adam's attention. And Amelia deliberately hides this fact from her husband just to get him to leave the party early.
So she is the literal architect of his success, but she refuses to let him know it.
It's just so twisted.
It is. And by keeping him in the dark about Henry Winter at that party, she is actively gatekeeping his career and his relationships. I think it forces us to ask why.
Yeah, why do it?
Why go to the trouble of building your husband up only to secretly control his access to the world? Why play the martyr in secret?
I'm so glad you asked that, because the text gives us a massive clue with their word of the year from one of the letters. Limerence.
Limerence, yes. Such an intense word.
It's defined as an obsessive, involuntary, romantic attraction. It's not just, having a crush. It's an overwhelming, consuming need to have your feelings reciprocated.
Right. It's about possession, almost.
Exactly. It makes me question whether Amelia's actions are driven by genuine love or by this suffocating need for absolute control. She wants him to be successful, sure, but only if he remains entirely dependent on her orchestration.
And the control aspect is deeply ironic when you look at Amelia's day job.
Oh, at Battersea.
Yeah, she works at Battersea Dogs Home. Her entire professional life involves rigorously assessing strangers. She interviews people looking to adopt, searching for any sign of dishonesty, instability, or poor character.
She wants to ensure they provide safe, honest homes for vulnerable dogs.
Right.
She rejects people left and right for minor character flaws to protect these dogs, including their own rescue lab, Bob. Meanwhile, her own home is built on a foundation of massive foundational deception.
It's a classic psychological defense mechanism, compartmentalization. She enforces absolute truth and morality at work because she cannot bear to enforce it in her own home. It forces us to ask, where in our own lives are we being hypercritical of strangers to avoid looking at our own messes?
Wow, yeah.
But if we turn this outward for a moment, I'd ask you, listening to this, to reflect on your own life and your own career. How much of what we confidently call our luck or our success might actually be the result of someone else's unseen, uncredited labor behind the scenes?
That is a deeply unsettling thought. The idea that our greatest individual achievements might be built on scaffolding that someone else secretly put up.
And they could take it down at any time.
Exactly. And speaking of unsettling spaces, Amelia has spent years perfectly curating her husband's life in London. So when they arrive at Blackwater Chapel in Scotland, it's completely jarring that she is suddenly the one out of control.
The environment itself seems to turn against her.
Right. The physical setting of this weekend getaway becomes a character in itself. The internal psychological rot of their marriage begins to perfectly mirror the decaying, creepy external environment of this converted chapel.
It is hitting every Gothic horror trope, but the author does it in a way that feels incredibly grounded in their marital tension.
Totally. First, the massive chapel doors slam shut entirely on their own, locking them in.
Spooky right from the jump.
Then the power cuts out, plunging them into the freezing dark. And then there is the crypt. Adam sends Amelia down into this freezing damp crypt to get a bottle of wine.
Which is a genuinely terrifying scene.
I would not go down there.
Me neither. She heads down there and discovers it's filled with hundreds of homemade frozen meals, things like toad in the hole and racks of dusty wine. But the horror isn't just the physical setting, it's her intense psychological reaction to it.
The darkness triggers a massive panic attack. She's trapped in the dark of this crypt, and she hears her name being whispered out of the blackness. Amelia, Amelia. She hears scratching against the stone. It is pure nightmare fuel. But when she runs back upstairs, Adam just thinks she's being dramatic.
He totally dismisses her. And yet, amidst all this Gothic horror and decay, we have the bedroom they're supposed to sleep in.
Here's where it gets really interesting. They go upstairs to the primary bedroom that has been made up for them, and it is completely spotless.
Right, unlike the rest of the place.
It smells freshly of furniture polish. But worse, it is an exact replica of their bedroom back in London.
Right down to the specific paint color on the walls.
Molly's Breath by Farrow and Ball.
Such a specific color to just happen to be there.
Right. And Adam tries to rationalize it. He tells her, oh, you bought our furniture from a mainstream catalog. Maybe whoever owns this place just saw the exact same catalog.
Which is such a stretch.
It is. But you, the listener, know this is too specific. It's too targeted. It completely strips away the boundary between the safety of their home and the horror of this isolated chapel.
Because the chapel isn't just a spooky backdrop, it acts as a physical projection of their mutual distrust and paranoia. Everything inside it seems designed to unnerve them, to strip away their sense of safety, and to isolate them further.
And the stakes just keep rising. Amelia looks out the stained glass window of the chapel and sees a literal face staring back at her.
Just out in the blizzard.
A white face in the middle of the storm. Adam, of course, dismisses her again, patronizes her, and tells her she imagined it. But while she is pulling away emotionally, Adam is exploring the chapel on his own and discovers a heavy door with a "Danger, Keep Out" sign leading up to a bell tower.
And it's up in that bell tower where Adam's own paranoia fully surfaces. He reveals to the reader that he doesn't just think his marriage is in a rut.
Oh no, it's way past that.
He suspects his wife is actually planning to murder him.
Because she recently made him sign a life insurance policy while he was drinking.
Just a casual thing to do over drinks.
Right. So think about this dynamic. She thinks she's seeing faces in the windows and hearing whispers in the crypt, and he thinks she brought him to a remote, freezing Scottish chapel to kill him for the insurance payout.
They are completely trapped in their own subjective realities, entirely unable to trust the person sitting right next to them.
This is madness.
They are sharing a physical space, but they are living in two completely different mental universes.
Just as you, the listener, assume this is purely a claustrophobic two-player game of marital chess, like a locked room mystery, the narrative seamlessly introduces a wild card.
A completely different perspective that reframes everything we've just talked about.
Exactly. We meet Robin.
Enter Robin.
She is an older woman living in a dilapidated, thatched roof cottage just down the track from the chapel. She is entirely isolated from the rest of the world. She wears ancient dungarees, smokes a rat-race pipe, and cooks baked beans over an open fire.
Very rustic.
And then she turns those empty bean tins into little faces.
The tin faces are such a striking, bizarre visual. She arranges them around her. Some have happy expressions, some sad, some angry. It's as if she has surrounded herself with a silent metal audience.
It's incredibly weird.
It is. But it's the detail about her trips to the local store that really injects a profound sense of dread into her character.
Oh, right. She occasionally drives an hour to the local store in Hollow Grove, interacting with a very hostile cashier named Patty.
Patty is not a fan.
No. And Robin specifically buys the last jars of baby food on the shelf. The text notes that Patty and everyone else in town knows Robin doesn't have a baby.
Which just makes it so unnerving.
But she goes back to her dark cottage, and she spoons this baby food to an unseen companion making tiny footsteps in the dark behind her chair.
It is incredibly eerie, but we need to look at why this matters psychologically.
What's the connection?
Well, Robin is projecting a fantasy onto empty space to cope with her extreme isolation. And this serves as a dark mirror to Adam and Amelia.
Oh, I see.
Robin creates a literal imaginary friend out of thin air, but Adam and Amelia have done the exact same thing to each other. They are projecting imaginary versions of their spouse onto the stranger sitting across the dinner table.
That is deeply unsettling. She really is the psychological mirror of their marriage.
Exactly. And her function in the narrative is vital. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Robin operates as a classic Greek chorus.
Okay, explain how that works in this context.
So, a Greek chorus in theater stands outside the main action and offers insight into the tragedy unfolding. Robin watched Adam and Amelia arrive in their mint green car. She knows the Scottish storm is deadly. She's a local. She prepared for it.
She knows what's coming.
Right. She looks out her cottage window and recognizes immediately that these visitors are making terrible, dangerous choices.
She is completely physically isolated from society, living entirely off the grid with her pipe and her bean tins. Yet she sees the truth of Adam and Amelia's doomed dynamic far more clearly than they see themselves.
Oh, without a doubt.
At one point, she literally stands outside the chapel in the snow, looking in through the stained glass, watching them try to perform the role of a happy couple in front of the fire.
She notes that from the outside looking in, it was quite a romantic scene. Two people by a fire in a storm, but she knows looks can be deceiving.
She sees right through it.
She reflects on her own life, acknowledging that she has made poor choices that led to her isolation, and watching them, she knows they have made poor choices too, arriving at Blackwater Chapel being the biggest one.
So what does this all mean? We have a husband who can't see faces but senses lies.
Right.
A wife who saves dogs but builds her entire life on deceit. A haunted chapel with a replica bedroom that blurs the line between home and hell. And an isolated woman watching it all unfold in a deadly blizzard, acting as a mirror for their delusions.
It means we are looking at the extreme dangers of unchecked resentment. It's a study in the vast, often terrifying difference between what we project to the world and to our partners, and what is actually real.
The gap between perception and reality.
Exactly. When honest communication breaks down, secrets don't just sit quietly in the background, they mutate. They turn a marriage into a haunted house where every creaking floorboard sounds like a threat and every action is viewed through a lens of paranoia.
And that is why this deep dive matters for you. It's a thriller, yes, but it's demanding that you look closely at the established truths in your own life.
Really question them.
Are you seeing the whole picture in your relationships? Or are you suffering from your own form of emotional prosopagnosia?
That's the real question.
Are you only seeing what you expect to see or what is most convenient to see, rather than the complicated, evolving person actually standing in front of you?
The text forces us to confront how easily a shared life can become two completely separate, paranoid realities happening in the exact same room. It is a warning about the slow drift of isolation.
Which brings me to one final thought, something I want you to mull over after we wrap up here. In Amelia's cotton anniversary letter, the letter from year 2, she talks about when they first bought their derelict house in London. And Adam excitedly calls the house their growlery.
It is such a fascinating, specific word choice.
Tell me about it.
A growlery is defined as a place of refuge, a sanctuary for use when one is feeling out of sorts. Literally, a private room to growl in.
Right. They build their forever home and frame it as a growlery, a place to retreat when they are upset. And it makes me wonder, Is it possible that over time, every human mind eventually becomes a growlery?
Wow.
A totally private, isolated mental space where we retreat to nurse our resentments, completely locked away from the person sitting right next to us.
It is the ultimate form of isolation, building a fortress to protect yourself only to realize you've locked yourself inside.
You can be sitting in a car in the middle of a blizzard, inches away from the person you actively chose to spend your life with, and be entirely alone in your growlery.
That's a chilling thought to leave on.
Keep that in mind the next time you look at the person next to you. Are you seeing them, or just the walls you've built? Until next time.